And there are people who are clapping and drinking detergent. My God, I don't know if I should cry or laugh. I'm going to laugh. Because crying, the right has to stop and cry. And complain a lot. For the self-destruction it allows. To itself from the tolerance and the way it covers up for the far right there. It's a shame. I feel embarrassed for you. Because I've already fought the good fight. I've already had the struggle at a high level, where today I am who I am exactly because I was forged in the fire of the right wing in academic and school environments. And today you don't even have that to give. It's a fifth-rate little speech, a shitty one. So you have to stop and mourn and cry because you are heading for the gutter. And the problem, the danger is that you might take Brazil down with you, but we are not going to let that happen. We won't. Go get some help. As the prophet said, return to the old paths. Look for where you got lost. And I know in Bolsonarism, on the far right, because today you are a source of embarrassment, of shame. And the world doesn't turn, huh? The world flips over. Where? What the hell has the right come to? And now I'm going to say a bunch of things that echo exactly everything I just explained to you. Put it up there. Where did the right wing end up? Today we have a denialist, coup-supporting, fascist, idiotic, and imbecilic right wing. Can you believe that, or do you want more? You can comment down below. Leave your comment. Meanwhile, they're preparing a counterattack against Justice Alexandre de Moraes. Alexandre de Moraes, I think he didn't want to be picked, you know? I'm not going to lie to you, really. I think he wouldn't have liked to be chosen as the justice assigned to the case. Now, there are already 3 lawsuits of these direct constitutional challenges that were filed in the federal Supreme Court. The Workers' Party has now filed a direct constitutional challenge against the sentencing law. PSOL and the Rede Party filed together, and the Brazilian Press Association also filed its own action. This is interesting. This is an important fact. The Brazilian Press Association also filed a direct constitutional challenge against the sentencing law, which puts the federal Supreme Court in charge of analyzing through centralized constitutional review in a serious and definitive way whether this law is constitutional or not, the sentencing law. And by lottery, which is how cases are assigned, by lottery, Alexandre de Moraes was chosen to be the justice assigned to this case. I believe that Alexandre de Moraes would have preferred not to have been chosen. But he was chosen. And he, as I explained to you since last week, right away suspended the application of the law, the sentencing calculation law, until it is decided by the full court whether the law is constitutional or not. I had explained all of this to you, that this was going to happen all last week. I explained to you that this was going to happen, that Alexandre de Moraes was chosen as the justice assigned to the case, but he is already the rapporteur for the actions regarding the attempted coup. So all the requests for the application of sentencing guidelines, that is, for sentence reduction, would go to his office for him to analyze the sentence reduction based on the new sentencing calculation law. But then there were the direct constitutional challenges in which the Supreme Court was called upon to decide whether the law is valid or not. So what Alexandre de Moraes did, as I said he would do, except I didn't know it would be him. I even said, look, it could be any justice, but he was the one who was chosen. He suspended the application of the law, that is, he suspended all the sentence reductions for all the coup plotters until the full court analyzes the entire law to decide whether it is valid or not. So because of that, the Bolsonaro supporters, the opposition, are already attacking Justice Alexandre de Moraes again. The PL has already stated they have enough votes to impeach Justice Alexandre de Moraes. Here we go again. Because they act as if it's something personal on Justice Alexandre de Moraes' part. And I had already told you this, that this was going to happen. This is a procedural matter. This happens in the procedure for analyzing constitutionality in case-specific constitutional review. It has the power to suspend everything, even for reasons of legal certainty. Because if there is, later on, if the law is not suspended and the concrete effects it produces occur, such as, for example, the reduction of a sentence, and then in the concentrated review here, which is the highest and most powerful control that exists in the Supreme Court, if they overturn the law, what will happen to these situations where sentences were reduced when they shouldn't have been? Everyone knows this happens and it's the normal procedure. But then a bunch of representatives and senators come along, Flavio Bolsonaro himself, who says he's a lawyer but doesn't even seem like one because it looks like he doesn't know anything about constitutional law. He says it's Alexandre de Moraes just ruling by the stroke of a pen. I don't know what, and everyone rises up against Alexandre de Moraes, these Bolsonaro supporters, deputies, senators, and so on and so forth. Of course, the legal part that I explained, very well explained on Saturday, by the way, and I'm not going to keep repeating it here so it doesn't get repetitive. They know all of this, that this is the normal procedure, upholding legal certainty, and even the hierarchy of the rules, right? And so on. But they don't want to share this information. They want to say that Alexandre de Moraes is the dictator, that Alexandre de Moraes is persecuting the coup plotters, that the problem is Alexandre de Moraes. Even to take the focus away from the real problems, it's just like YP detergent, isn't it? The issue is about caution, about prevention, where the company itself will soon release a statement telling people not to do what they're doing, because if someone dies, soon the family will take legal action against the company for compensation, you know? It's like these are situations where responsible people, right? Like us here, we have to explain things as they are. And not based on made-up stories to manipulate people, taking advantage of their lack of information and knowledge or their malice, you know, because many people are influenced by the far right, not because they're dumb or idiots. No, Andrea, no, it's because it's in their interest. Or maybe they found resonance in their homophobia, in their sexism, in their transphobia, in their madness, in their hatred, in their cultural racism. They found resonance in the far right, and for them, everything that comes from it is right. It's the black person who won't accept being black, the poor person who thinks they're middle class, it's the middle class. The one that thinks it's elite and has prejudice against itself and wants to be active in the right-wing camp, which they think are the white, beautiful, clean, honest, and rich people. Oh my God, intelligent. The right wing used to be intelligent. Today, as I just explained to you, it's an embarrassment. It's a shame. So there are people who found resonance, who found representation in what hurts them the most in their lives. That's why they call themselves Bolsonarists. Because honestly, there's no way to believe certain things like, for example, Flavio Bolsonaro. And Flavio Bolsonaro also confronted Alexandre de Moraes. And now they're bringing up that whole situation again. There are two situations they're bringing up there. And now they want to propose constitutional amendment for what, Andrea? For amnesty. Again, Andrea, again. Just like with the sentencing, the federal Supreme Court, right, got involved in the case, got involved because it was called upon. I've already said the Supreme Court got involved because it was asked to. If the Supreme Court is called, it can't avoid responsibility for interpreting the law in a case like this, specifically whether the sentencing law is valid or not. Second situation, it was called upon and it will decide, and whatever it decides, that's final. Now they're saying that since it's a bill that the federal Supreme Court suspended, they're going to move forward tried to convince Hugo Mota and Davi Alcolumbre to move it forward. A proposed amendment to the Constitution establishing not sentencing guidelines, but amnesty for all the coup plotters. And it's going to be, pay attention to this, it's going to be a proposed amendment to the Constitution. Who said this? I'll show you. It was Federal Deputy Sostenes Cavalcante, leader of the PL in the Chamber of Deputies. And it's going to be a proposed amendment to the Constitution, because by being a proposed amendment to the Constitution, it will be added to the Constitution and the Federal Supreme Court won't be able to overturn it. Who said that? Where did you see that? That's a lie. Look, there's another one of their lies. Then you ask me, Andreas, so the Supreme Court, if a proposed amendment to the Constitution is approved, which becomes an amendment which will be added to the federal Constitution itself, which you said is the supreme law, the highest law in Brazil, can the Supreme Court overturn it? An amendment to the Constitution? According to Sostenes Cavalcante, he said it can't. But he's lying to you. And he knows that. And it's not possible that a federal deputy doesn't know that. There is the original constituent power and there is the derivative constituent power for amendments. The original constituent power is the one from 1988, when the National Constituent Assembly gathered and then the federal constitution was created. This is the original constituent power that gave rise to the federal constitution. And in the federal constitution, it was established by the original constituent power that there would be a certain part of the constitution that could not be changed. And that would be the unchangeable part. Which part is that, Andrea? The unamendable clauses. The federated state, direct, secret, and universal voting, fundamental rights, Article 5, and so on. These could not be changed by the federal Supreme Court in a way that would diminish rights and guarantees. Because if the Supreme Court wants to change it to increase, it can. To decrease, it cannot. But the other parts of the Constitution, especially those that come from the derived constituent power of reform. What does that mean, Andrea? Derived constituent power of reform. What does that mean, Andrea? It's the making of amendments to the Constitution by means of a proposal for an amendment to the Constitution. The National Congress has the power to approve proposals for amendments to the Constitution, which generates an amendment that is added to the text of the Constitution. This stems from the derivative power to amend the Constitution. This one is subject to a direct action of unconstitutionality and a centralized constitutional review. And the Supreme Court can say that this amendment is invalid, or whether it is valid, and if so, in what way and what interpretation should be given to it. Just as Parliament has the power to make the amendment, the Supreme Court has the power to determine whether this amendment is constitutional. That's why I keep telling you, Sostenes Cavalcante, federal deputy from PL, Pasto, is lying to people. And he knows what I'm explaining to you. Oh, Andrea, maybe he doesn't know, Andrea. He has legal advisors. Paid by us. They have all kinds of advisors, parliamentary advisor, legal advisor, social advisor, this advisor, that advisor. There are representatives who have 45 advisors. They found out here that in the Legislative Assembly of Goiás, there are 103 appointees for each federal representative, not counting the advisors. How do you think it is in the National Congress? So if he doesn't know, he should know. He then said he plans to propose a constitutional amendment so the Supreme Court can't overturn it. You're lying. Oh, Sostenes Cavalcante. You're lying, Sostenes? That's misinformation. And we do public service work here. So necessary these days with so many lies and fake news, where those who should educate, inform, and provide a public service, especially representatives and senators, do the opposite. To sweet talk the chamber, the herd uses and manipulates as they please. Look here at what he said. The bill won't solve it. It has to be a constitutional amendment, because then we won't have to depend on anyone from the Supreme Court. We don't want sentencing guidelines. It has to be a broad, general, and restricted amnesty, she stated. It's one of two things. Either he's lying to you or he's part of the dumb right wing. What do you think? Sostenes Cavalcante is lying to you. Or is he part of the dumb right wing? You can make amendments. It's not a problem. You can do whatever you want, whatever you can do. Because when it's time to work, you don't. You don't bring a proposal that solves a problem that affects Brazilian society. So you keep up this smokescreen with this nonsense here, with this situation, stirring up the crowd. But can you do it? Yes, you can. But the Supreme Court can overturn it. Just as you can do it, the Supreme Court can overturn it. So there's this situation they're bringing up, and they're saying there's already enough votes in the Supreme Court, not the Supreme Court, in the Senate to remove Justice Alexandre de Moraes through impeachment. Then you ask, Andrea, what if the Senate impeaches Justice Alexandre de Moraes? Well, can the Senate do that, Andrea? Yes, it can. If the requirements for impeachment are met, the Supreme Court can. Which requirement, Andrea? The senator who serves as president of the Senate has to be open to it. In this case, it's Davi Alcolumbre. He has to read the opening of the impeachment request. There has to be a process where they will have to prove a specific fact that establishes an impeachable offense against Minister Alexandre de Moraes. Then they can proceed. And if they vote by an absolute majority that Minister Alexandre de Moraes has to be impeached, removed, Minister Alexandre de Moraes will be impeached and removed. But there's a catch. The reason, which is a certain and specific fact as established by the Constitution, that the minister committed an impeachable offense, this fact has to exist. If this fact doesn't exist, the Supreme Federal Court overturns it. The impeachment of a minister of the Supreme Federal Court. Right, Andrea? Right? You need a specific concrete fact. And as I've already explained to you, the fact that Minister Alexandre de Moraes suspended the application of the sentencing law isn't anything new. This is part of the constitutional procedural process in abstract constitutional review. Analysis of the constitutionality of the law by the full court. Meanwhile, everything is suspended until the final decision for the sake of legal certainty, so that later there is no need to redo or undo acts that have already been completed. So isn't that an impeachable offense? If that's the specific concrete fact of an impeachable offense by Minister Alexandre de Moraes, that fact doesn't exist. And it won't actually and truly result in an impeachment because the Supreme Court will overturn it. Then Brazil will turn into a war zone. It will turn into a total war between the institutions themselves. At this level, yes, it would cause damage to the Supreme Court, but it would also cause a lot of damage to the Federal Senate itself, because it would be humiliated for having done something wrong and the Supreme Court having to correct it. So I don't think there will be an impeachment of Minister Alexandre de Moraes. Now, there are situations that could change all of this. For example, what is the level of involvement of Davi Alcolumbre, for example, with Daniel Vorcaro? Maybe with the INSS fraud. Do you understand? And what about other senators? Because I noticed a kind of desperate movement in the National Congress. I noticed that because there's no other justification. Nothing matches that level of stupidity. There's no extremism that goes that far. To me, it's desperation. I sense an air of desperation inside the National Congress, whether it's the Chamber of Deputies or the Federal Senate. And it seems to me that it's because of involvement, whether in the INSS fraud by members of parliament or especially in the Banco Master fraud. Where maybe, you know that corner dog? Have you ever seen a corner dog? The corner dog, what does it do? Huh? It attacks. If you corner a dog, no matter how small it is, if it finds itself with no way out, it will attack you. And I see cornered dogs in the National Congress who have messed up and who are implicated all the way up to the hair on their heads, not just up to their necks. They're involved up to every last hair on their heads in the fraud, especially the Banco Master fraud. We already have the first possible person involved, who is exactly Senator Ciro Nogueira, a supporter of Bolsonaro. He was the chief of staff in Bolsonaro's administration, which is the ministry closest to the president of the republic. It's the chief of staff's office, whose office is next door. Actually, it's not next door, it's upstairs, and the president is downstairs. Exactly, because there is a direct exchange and a direct connection between them. So Ciro Nogueira was the first senator now already strongly suspected of being involved in the Banco Master fraud. Bolsonarista? Bolsonarist leader, actually not leader, president of the PP, president of the Progressive Party. And who, according to Flavio Bolsonaro, would be his dream vice president. Flavio Bolsonaro himself said that he would be a dream vice president. Ciro, this and that, gave an interview saying that. So I feel this atmosphere of desperation in the Federal Senate and in the Chamber of Deputies because there are cornered dogs. And a cornered dog can bite. Therefore, for an impeachment request against the Supreme Federal Court Justice to move forward, that will only happen. Pay attention to this part. That will only happen if the dog has nowhere to run. Thank you. The cornered dog will attack. Why? Because he knows if he stays, he's in trouble. If he runs, he's in trouble too. And that he is involved in the biggest banking fraud in Brazil, perhaps even in the world. Thank you. Which is Daniel Borcaro's fraud, who is in prison, along with Fabiano Zettel, who is also in prison. And look at another coincidence involving Bolsonaro supporters. Fabiano Zettel donated 3 million to Bolsonaro's election campaign. As a private individual, he took his own money and deposited 3 million reais into Bolsonaro's campaign account. Then we start finding things out. 3 million reais for Bolsonaro. Ciro Nogueira, Bolsonaro's former minister. All of that is part of the plot. So I notice a lot of cornered dogs. And this can have harmful consequences for our democracy. Because they will try to escape. And maybe one of the ways to do that from the perspective of those who feel cornered is exactly to attack those who can put them in jail, in the cage. Thank you. Do you understand, my dear? So this creates a very dangerous alliance for Brazil. Which one, Andrea? The far right with the scummy right. And with the center. What does that create? A majority. And could we be facing it then? The beginning of a new coup structure in Brazil. Because the dogs are cornered and they might make a move. Especially with this alliance that will create what? The majority. I'll repeat. Far right, scummy right, and the center. Cornered like dogs. And that they can advance. And we have to stay alert to these movements. Because, of course, they won't show this structure that we're explaining. They'll say it's because they're being persecuted. Because the Supreme Court is a dictatorship. Because this isn't that. But they don't say, for example, what happened regarding Ciro Nogueira. Ciro Nogueira bought a duplex, bought a mansion. Right before making a deal with Borcaro, according to the federal police, he bought a mansion there. It's 22 million here, 18 million there. He was at Carnival in 2024 with Fernandinho, who owns Tigrinho in the Philippines. Yeah, it is. He also traveled on this guy's private jet. And who was there? Hugo Mota. He tried to pass an amendment that would favor the continuation of the Banco Master fraud. And who? Senator Ciro Nogueira. Hugo Mota submitted a proposal that benefited two groups in which Daniel Borcaro is one of the main partners. And it was that situation with that proposal involving carbon. It benefited the group as well. So there are a lot of people who are like cornered dogs in the National Congress, and they might attack. And who are they going to attack? Mainly the Federal Supreme Court. Let's keep an eye on that, okay? And the other situation here, it's this one right here. Look. They intend to pressure the Speaker of the House, Hugo Mota, of the Republicanos Party, to put PEC 8 of 2021 on the agenda, which limits single-judge decisions by the court. They can do this, and it's not unconstitutional. I'm not here to lie. I'm here to clarify things for you. They can do this. Can they, Andre? Yes, they can. They can decide here that the Federal Supreme Court, in order to suspend the effectiveness of a federal law approved by the National Congress, that this decision should be made by the full court or by the panel, whether it's by the first panel, second panel, or the full court, even just the full court, that's fine, no problem. They can do this. This is constitutional. There's no problem. What does that mean, Andre? There's no problem. The Supreme Court won't reverse this because this is something they can do. The only thing that's going to happen is that the Supreme Court will reorganize itself to meet more often in plenary sessions. That's what's going to happen. Do you understand? In another situation this will create, it's more stalling, more. What happens from the moment all the analysis decisions? For example, constitutional control, which is the direct action of unconstitutionality, declaratory action of constitutionality, action for non-compliance with a fundamental precept, which are actions under abstract constitutional review. What will happen, which is mainly the analysis of laws, is that the Supreme Court will meet more often as a full court to decide on these situations, such as, for example, the suspension of a law until the final decision, as is happening in the dosimetria case. The full court will decide that, and what can happen? Delays. Like what, Andre? A request for more time to review the case. And what can that do, Andre? Suspend the law regardless. That way, the National Congress can't claim the Supreme Court is stalling. It's just the procedure. There will be a request for more time to review the case. There will be stalling, and the President of the House will declare the law suspended until the final decision for a legal reason, for legal certainty, everyone. There's nothing new here. There's nothing new here. Everyone knows that. If you're a lawyer, you definitely should. And this here, oh, I almost broke everything here. And this here, the National Congress can do. Yes, Andre, it can, and it's constitutional. There's no problem. Now, the other part I just mentioned to you about impeachment, without a concrete impeachable offense, they can't do that. And if by any chance that pack of dogs push forward and do it, the Supreme Court will overturn it. That's the situation. So like all of this because of craziness, right, guys? From the far right and the right that accepts it. And many of these situations are just smoke screens. And others turn all of this into a little political soapbox to make their grandstanding videos go viral on social media and get votes. because they have no real work to show. They have no work to show. Girl, when Central showed me the video of Nicholas Ferreira advertising a pair of flip-flops, not Havaianas, no, it's a right-wing flip-flop to try to boycott the Havaianas flip-flops. I said, no, what the hell is this, for God's sake, people? This guy is a federal congressman. He's earning 50,000 rees for this crap. No, I'm sorry, but for God's sake, what is he doing? Why doesn't he go to work? Why doesn't he go find a job? Why doesn't he present a proposal that would benefit his state, Minas Gerais? That would benefit the people? No, he's holding his sandal in his hand, and I'm not going to show his video here because I'm not going to give that lunatic a platform, because that's what he wants. But the Brazilian people should be outraged by a congressman like that. The guy is making almost 50,000 reais, folks, for not working. And if you think about it, is there a reason for him to be doing something so stupid? What is this? And he will probably be one of the federal deputies with the most votes in Brazil. I'm going to tell you something too. Brazil isn't doing better. You know why? Because people don't know how to vote. How can people vote for a guy like that, who doesn't have a single bill that would solve any problem of Brazilian society? Do you know why he has nothing? Nothing. But there are plenty of those grandstanding little videos. Then he sweet talks the crowd. God, country, family, the only good criminal is a dead criminal. And he acts like a brat. And he doesn't work. He makes a living by creating short videos nonstop. Ridiculous, guys. I'm sorry, but it's ridiculous. That must be why the right, which used to be smart back in my day when I had to debate with them, that's probably why now they're embracing stupidity, because it seems like stupidity is what's in. Stupidity is what's getting votes. Lies, fake news, conspiracy theories, this whole situation. No, we need to get back to sanity, everyone. We need to get back to a balanced place. Crazy people. The opposition's proposed constitutional amendment targeting Alexandre de Moraes. The measure is a response to a justice's decision that suspends the application of the dosimetria law to those convicted for the extremist acts of January 8th. PL says it has a majority in the Senate for a justice's impeachment. Parties will pressure Motel Colombre with amnesty in the form of a proposed constitutional amendment, as I just explained to you. That's all just talk to fool people and manipulate the masses. And if a situation like this moves forward, it's because the corner dogs decided to push ahead. Then all hell is going to break loose. In every possible way, it's going to be an all-out war in Brazil. National Congress, presidency, and federal Supreme Court. All hell will break loose in every possible way. Whether this moves forward or not depends on the presidents of the respective houses, Andrea. Notably Davi Alcolumbre, who seems cornered to me. I'm not going to lie. And also, Hugo Mota, the president of the Chamber of Deputies, also has some influence there that could lead to this or not, but I'll repeat, I don't believe it. But if it happens, I want to make it very clear to you here, the situation is much worse than we imagine. And there will be a war in Brazil, institutional. That may be preparing the environment for a new coup, much more serious than part of the institutions themselves, especially the National Congress, which for many is already being portrayed as the enemy of the people. I don't like that term. I'm not going to lie to you. You've seen me talk about this only a few times here because I don't think it's healthy for democracy. But I'll repeat it for you. If things get out of hand and the dogs who are cornered attack, the situation is much more serious than we imagine. And in fact, Congress will be in the configuration that many are already casting Congress as an enemy of the people. And this is very serious. And let's stay alert to these movements. I sincerely hope they don't move forward. If it moves forward, get ready. And things are going to get rough. Thank you. Urgent. Moraes suspends the application of the sentencing law, which has now led to these new attacks against Minister Alexandre Moraes. All right? Meanwhile, have you liked the live stream yet? Please like the live stream. Leave your comment. Don't leave me talking to myself. Don't leave me talking to myself. Please, please. They already call me a little crazy, nuts, and insane, right? Not that we aren't sometimes. Who isn't, right? But don't leave me talking to myself. Leave your comment. Like the live stream, it's really important. And if you can, share it. Guys, I can't believe this. Central. God's Central. I forgot, guys. No, wait, I forgot, but I'll send it now. I forgot to send the notification to everyone. Calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down. The notification for everyone, guys, who are in the WhatsApp group, I'll send it now. You'll see how I send it. To join, use this link right here. Here's the link to my WhatsApp group. It's where I always send a notification whenever there's a new live. Let me send it here. Guys, forgive me. Please forgive me. I forgot to send you the notification before the live stream started. Today was the first time I forgot. Forgive me, okay? But good morning. Have an excellent Monday. And I'm sending the link to the live stream that's about to start. Actually, it already started. Sorry, but it's all good. Kisses. Oh my, it's menopause, guys. Menopause does things you can't even imagine it does. There you go. I just sent the link here because then the person who isn't notified and all that gets the links firsthand before the live stream. Okay, guys, but I forgot today. Good thing I remembered. Thank God, done. I sent it. So you join here. If the QR code doesn't work, just open your phone's camera and hold it like this. Then you click and it opens. If you can't do it when the live ends, I'll put the link in the first comment, okay? Then you join the group here. Whenever there's something new, I share it here in the WhatsApp group first, okay? Because the live here, you know, is at 8:30 and 12:30 every day from Monday to Friday. But if something happens in the meantime, during those intervals, I make a video or record an audio and post it there, letting you know what's going on, okay? And I always let you know before the lives. Well, meanwhile, look here. Exclusive. Ciro bought a 3-story apartment worth 22 million in Sao Paulo, 1 month before the Master Amendment. Senator Ciro Nogueira from PP of Piauí bought a triplex penthouse worth 22 million in one of the most luxurious buildings in Sao Paulo, 3 months after becoming a partner of banker Daniel Vorcaro, and 26 days before presenting the so-called Master Amendment identified by the federal police as one of the links between the congressman and the bank involved in the billion-dollar fraud against the financial system. So, like, Senator Ciro Nogueira, guys, is in big trouble. The federal police are finding a lot of evidence. And honestly, he doesn't have the financial means to have assets like that. If you're earning a salary of 46,000 reais, you can't buy a triplex worth 22 million reais. You have to have other sources of money. What will Ciro Nogueira have to do? He will have to prove what his other sources of money are. Because if he can't prove it, this is bribe money. This is dirty money. In fact, there are suspicions, and he's also being investigated in the hidden carbon operation. It's not just in this operation. Pay attention to what I'm going to tell you. Ciro Nogueira is also being investigated for possible connections with the PCC. Now, in the police investigation called Hidden Carbon by the federal police, which investigates a number of businessmen, other politicians could be involved too, who created a network of businesses and companies to launder money for the PCC. Yeah. He's also being investigated in this case, along with Daniel Vorcaro. In my perception, they're going to converge at some point. What does that mean? They're going to meet and they're interconnected. To me, they're interconnected And don't be surprised, in my opinion, if soon the federal police requests the merging of the Carbono Oculto police investigations with the Banco Master fraud case. There will be involvement not only in bank fraud, money laundering, bribery, corruption, criminal organization, but also other crimes involving the Comando Vermelho, not Comando Vermelho, PCC. And let's wait, and I'll repeat. Former minister under Bolsonaro, the most important minister, the one most connected and closest to Bolsonaro, from the chief of staff's office, Ciro Nogueira, who donated 3 million to Bolsonaro, Fabiano Zettel, who is in jail, brother-in-law of Daniel Volcaro, who is also in jail, who, according to the federal police, was one of the financial agents of the criminal organization's scheme. Money laundering, distributing money, fraudulent contracts, fake contracts, all of that because there was a lot of money involved. And there's also another one who was arrested. He was also involved together with Ciro Nogueira in all that money movement. Ciro Nogueira's brother is wearing an ankle monitor. Ciro Nogueira is forbidden from leaving Brazil. And the federal police forbade him from contacting anyone who is under investigation. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ciro Nogueira gets arrested soon. I know he's a senator. I know he has parliamentary immunity. If caught in the act, he can only be arrested for a non-bailable crime. But by court order, he can be arrested. Regardless of the crime he has committed or is being investigated for, he can be arrested by court order. The question is, the Senate, would they overturn his arrest? Because in Article 53, where parliamentary immunity is established, it states that the chamber the lawmaker belongs to in plenary session, that is the full Senate, can halt, suspend, and overturn his arrest. So I believe he will be arrested. Do you believe so? I do. Even before the election, actually, before October. The thing is, the federal police will have to have very strong evidence, and they already do. But they'll need even more evidence for Andre Mendonça to order his arrest. Exactly, because he's a senator. Now, I do have to say that there's something that really worries me. And for me, it was a slip and a very dangerous one by the justice assigned to this whole case. And that's Andre Mendonça. Andre Mendonça did not authorize searches and seizures in Ciro Nogueira's office. To me, that's an extremely dangerous slip. Why, Andre? Andre Mendonça sent a message to whoever comes next. Hide it inside your office because I won't authorize it there. This is very serious. And for me, it's a very serious slip by Andre Mendonça. There's no such thing as local immunity, people. So you just have to take the body into the office and no one will ever find it, right? You can kill, take the body and leave it, right? Why? Because nothing will happen. The police won't enter since Andre Mendonça believes searches aren't allowed in the office. What do you mean? And I really don't know, you know? I think it looked really bad in the federal Supreme Court. Because if I were a justice of the federal Supreme Court, I would talk to Andre Mendonça about this. And I would say exactly what I'm explaining to you. And I would even give him the code and say, Andre Mendonça, so do the following. Since you're afraid, and I think you're wrong, but you're afraid because you think there's parliamentary immunity in there, do the following. Set up an operation there on suspicion of a crime in progress. Because then it looks better for you. You don't look so bad. You're not backing down. You're presenting a new argument. Authorize a search and seizure inside, saying that an ongoing crime may be taking place inside. Because no parliamentary immunity protects against being caught in the act, or does it? No, right? So for God's sake, come on. Everyone else who's involved, guys, will hide inside the office. Why? Because Andre Mendonça doesn't authorize search and seizure inside the office. Oh, please, right, Andre Mendonça? Come on. I was going to go up to him and talk. And I believe that justices like Flavio Dino, Andre Mendonça, and Carmen Lucia must have gone up to him and said, look, Andre Mendonça, so hiding in the office is allowed since there's no search and seizure there? How does that work? Unless, pay attention to this here, because it could be this here too. Unless Andre Mendonça is setting a trap, he says he doesn't authorize it inside the office. And soon he'll authorize it to get it from inside. And maybe so he doesn't feel like he's being disrespected or embarrassed, he'll use the same argument I'm using here. Suspicion of a crime being committed inside the office. That's why I authorize it. I don't doubt it either. And I think pretty soon I'm going to tell you, look, I told you. Do you remember that I told you? Because, my dear, that's the only explanation. Because if it's not that, he gave people the cue to hide the documents, the evidence inside the office, because there won't be any search and seizure there. So he's helping. He's contributing to the crime. You'll have to excuse me. But that's the feeling it gives, that he's contributing to the crime and not working to solve it and catch the criminals. Why? You need proof. And they hide the evidence. They'll hide it where the police can't get to it. If the police can't enter the office, where will they hide it? Especially because we're talking about people who have parliamentary immunity, who hold positions of power, and a lot of power. So there must be something behind this action by Andre Mendonça, because if not, he's contributing to the crime and not helping solve the crimes.